The Cincinnati Scenic Railway. The CSR is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that operates the widely popular Lebanon Mason and Monroe Railroad in Lebanon, Ohio, and the widely popular Ohio Rail Experience across western Ohio. Currently, CSR is trying to raise money to acquire former Chessie System / Baltimore, Ohio 6955 from National Railway Equipment. The ultimate goal for CSR is to restore 6955 back to operational condition and have it operate alongside Chesapeake and Ohio 5704 and Nickel Plate Road 901 in excursion service on the LM&M and the ORE. CSR has made a Charity.GoFundMe to raise $35,000 in order to purchase 6955 from NRE. But they have a very limited time to do so, as CSR only has until October 31st, 2020 to get the money together. Otherwise, NRE will scrap the locomotive, as they plan on shutting down the yard 6955 is located in and getting rid of everything inside it. This is where you guys come in. If you guys just donate as little as $10 to the cause, that brings the campaign closer to succeeding. If you wish to donate even more money than that, I highly encourage it, but if you can only afford $10, that is fine as well. Any little bit helps. Also, if you wish to help out but want something in return, the Cincinnati Scenic Railway is offering 2 excursions to help raise the money. If you go to the Save the Chessie website linked down below and go to the Events tab, on offer is 2 excursions, the C&O Caboose Hop and the LM&M Rare Mileage Excursion. The C&O Caboose Hop is an excursion where you ride on both C&O 5704 and C&O 3160 as they do a caboose hop down the LM&M main line. The LM&M Rare Mileage Excursion, as the name implies, is an opportunity to ride across the full LM&M Railroad from Lebanon, Ohio to Mason, Ohio and Monroe, Ohio. So, if you guys wish to ride either excursions, I'll leave a link to the Save the Chessie website down below so you can go check that out. I'll also leave a link to the Save the Chessie GoFundMe and the Save the Chessie Facebook page so you can go check that out as well and go donate. Also, CSR has also acquired former Chessie System / Chesapeake and Ohio 904137 from CSX, a bay window caboose. They currently also have an Indiegogo page set up to raise the money to restore the caboose back to its Chessie System glory. The Indiegogo page has plenty to offer. Besides donating, they also have packs on offer. For $15, you can get a Chessie System caboose magnet. For $25, you can get a Chessie System GP30 pen. For $75, you can get a Chessie System Queensgate Yard hat. For $90, you can get both the magnet, the pen, and the hat. For $350, not only will you get the pen and the hat, but you'll also get an At the Throttle experience on one of the Cincinnati Scenic Railway's locomotives. For $5,000, not only will you get the pen and the hat, but you'll also get a private charter train, where the donor can bring as many as 100 people or as little as 12 people on a private excursion train down the Lebanon, Mason, and Monroe Railroad. I'll also leave a link to the Indiegogo page down below as well so you guys can go check that out, and hopefully we can save the Chessie. Come on, come all, to the Ohio Railway Museum's Ghost Trolley event. Here you'll be given a guided tour of the museum's most haunting attractions. Meet the engineer and all the others as they explain some history and possibly a ghost story or two about the equipment you'll be walking through. And to finish your visit to the Ohio Railway Museum, you'll hop aboard Ohio Public Service number 64 for a ghost hunting trip, and perhaps you may find something at the end of the line. Ghost Trolley begins this Friday, October 16th, and will run every Friday, Saturday, and even Sundays till Sunday, November 1st of 2020. Fridays will run from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., Saturdays from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., and Sundays from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Pre-ticket sales are available now at the Ohio Railway Museum website for the Friday and Saturday events. The museum is located at 990 Proprietors Road, Worthington, Ohio. Come if you dare. The date is July 25th, 2020. Well, as the title suggests in this video, today was my birthday. My original plan was to just stay at home and relax for the day, but then my friend Jake gave me a call to let me know that a pair of special Canadian National locomotives were leading an ethanol train into Columbus, Ohio. After some debating, my dad, brother, and I all went out to go and see it. We are located at the West Dublin-Granville Road, Road 161 Railroad Crossing in Linworth, Ohio, a suburb just west of Worthington, Ohio. This is CSX's Columbus sub, which runs from Parsons Yard all the way up to Toledo, Ohio, and this is the line the CN-led train was coming in on. Just across the tracks from where we were parked at, HYH Farmers Market was selling sweet corn and had a vintage fruit truck parked out by the road. Soon, the headlights of our train came into view from the distance, but before he came by, the first train to come across the crossing was this CSX high railer truck. A high railer truck is a special motorized vehicle equipped with special wheels so that way they can travel either by rail or by road. The high railer truck pulled up to the crossing and came to a stop so it could wait for an opening in the road traffic so it can come across. Just after the high railer truck got across the crossing, the CN-led train then came by. It was being led by Canadian National 5770 and 5647. CN 5770 and 5647 are both EMD SD75Is, 5770 being built in 1999 and 5647 being built in 1996. The EMD SD75Is are designated as road switchers. That means that these engines can keep up the speed out on the main line, but if necessary, can switch cars either for customers out on the main line or in yards. seeing the two Canadian EMDs here, we then moved down to the Portfolio Creative parking lot just off of Goodale Boulevard. Ironically, the SD75Is is almost exactly like their earlier predecessor, the SD75M. They both have 16-710-G3 engines that can produce between 4,000 to 4,300 horsepower. They also both have HTCR radio trucks, and they both have 72-foot 4-inch frames. The only difference between the two SD75s were their cabs. While the SD75Ms had a regular EMD wide cab, the SD75Is were equipped with what was called the isolated cab, which is what the I stands for in the model name. The isolated cab, or the whisper cab, as EMD prefer to call it, was a specially designed cab to reduce noise and vibrations coming from the engine behind the crew. This was done by separating the cab itself from the rest of the locomotive frame. The SD75Is were the first engines to receive this kind of cab, and the cab itself worked well. It worked so well that after their release on the SD75I, they became standard for all EMD engines built afterwards. After the train passed us here, we then moved to the High Street overpass, where we then saw the train come to a stop just before the bridge. Here, we met up with our friend Jake, who was also on the chase of these two CN locomotives. The train would come to a stop just in front of us, just before the bridge, and after a few minutes, it was then given permission to enter into Parsons Yard. After the train got into the yard, I then thanked my friend Jake for the heads up, and then my dad, brother, and I went back home. The next day, my brother and I found ourselves back at the 161 West Dublin Granville Road Railroad crossing. On this day, we were heading to the Ohio Railway Museum for operations, but we had arrived in Worthington a little bit early. So we drove to the crossing to see if there was any trains coming, and there was. We caught a southbound CSX freight train with all GE power. This appeared to be another one of CSX's PSR trains, as in the middle was CSX 909 acting as distributed power. After seeing the CSX PSR train, it was then time to head over to the Railway Museum, where another birthday celebration was taking place. During July of 2020, the Ohio Railway Museum was celebrating the birthday of Pennsylvania Railroad 6510, the Museum Railway Post Office, or RPO for short. 6510 was brung upon this earth in July of 1920, which means that this car had just turned 100 years old that July. To celebrate the occasion, ORM had put the car back onto the Excursion train for an RPO month. The last RPO month the museum had held here was back in 2015, so this was a very special occasion. And since it was the last day of RPO month, some of the volunteers and I were allowed to drive to the 161 ORM overpass just south of the main museum to see the long excursion train cross the 161 East Dublin Granville Road Bridge before opening the museum. Every operations day just before ORM opens to the public, a test train is run down the line to make sure that everything is ready down there. After about 10 minutes of waiting, the excursion train then came across the bridge. As usual, ORM 7178 Roger was leading the train across the bridge. Besides the RPO being run on the train for the first time in 5 years, the museum was also making history with the train itself, as it was running a 3-car train. This hasn't happened ever since the 1980s, so this is really historic. After the excursion train got across the bridge, we then went back to the museum. While we were waiting for the excursion train to come back, a Norfolk Southern Intermodal train then came by the museum. After the intermodal train got by the museum, we then got to watch as the excursion train then pulled back into the museum, finishing its test run for the day. Now that steam whistle you just heard wasn't just your imagination. That was coming from the recently acquired Lincolnheimer steam whistle, which the museum has fitted on the rear end of the excursion train. After the excursion train got back to the museum, we then got to our positions and worked the operations day. I didn't catch any more trains on this day, but before we leave the museum, I would like to bring up Columbus Streetcar 703. 703 is a classic streetcar built in 1925 by the Coleman Car Company of Cleveland, Ohio. It was the third of 23 streetcars built for the Columbus and Southern Electric Railway, which was the coda of Columbus, Ohio from 1888 till 1948. By 1948, the CNSE had transitioned out the old streetcars with buses, and most of the CNSE streetcars were scrapped, with the exception of 703. It stayed as a car body in a scrapyard until 1962, when the Ohio Railway Museum acquired 703 and, with the help of some surviving parts, restored the streetcar back to its former glory. Eventually, after some time of operation at the museum, the car was put back into storage by the museum until 2018. That year, the Bring 703 Back to Life campaign was launched on GoFundMe to renovate 703 and put it back into operation. The goal for the GoFundMe is to raise $25,000 in order to renovate the streetcar and to make any necessary repairs that might need to be done, such as repair work to the traction motors, any electrical components, and most importantly, the roof of the trolley. Luckily, the GoFundMe is almost to its goal and has raised, as of the making of this video, $20,526. Hopefully, once the money is raised, work on 703 will start, and if you guys wish to help, the best way of helping is by donating. I'll leave a link to the GoFundMe page down in the description box below so you can go do so. The last train I'll show you guys today is a southbound Norfolk Southern intermodal train I caught just after I got done with work. We now move to July 28, 2020 at Commerce Street at the NS overpass in Lockbourne, Ohio. I was on my way home from work when I missed a train at Valley, so I went down here to catch it. This small intermodal train usually runs from Rickenbacker Yard to Watkins Yard, specifically to Watkins Intermodal Yard section. Although Rickenbacker Yard is the main hub for all intermodal traffic on Norfolk Southern, some intermodal traffic is transferred to Watkins Yard since there's a smaller intermodal facility there as well. Since the Watkins Yard intermodal facility is a lot closer to the businesses and warehouses of Columbus, Ohio than Rickenbacker Yard, many of the businesses use that intermodal facility instead of Rickenbacker Yard, and this shuttle train is run to make sure that the containers make it to their trains at Rickenbacker Yard. Once the small intermodal train got past here, I then went back home, ending today, and now we are at the end of this video. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed yet another video from me. I hope you guys have another good day. See you later.